Well, it's a long ways away. So that I had a blast, man. I had so many takeaways. It was kind of one of those nostalgic trips. You can check it out. We did a little from the road on mine and Y Options Instagram account. We put it on our YouTube page as well. It was fun because I flew to Atlanta. Flight got canceled at Birmingham, so then I did the 3-hour drive, and it was awesome, man. Like I went through Talladega. I didn't even know Talladega was in Alabama, so that was awesome to check that out. And then I went to campus, and I pulled in right to the stadium. My GPS went right to their stadium. I wanted to see it. And pulling in to that community, I hadn't been there probably 15 years. I was there for Elite 11 15 years ago in the summer when at the time, like staffs weren't even allowed to be on campus. So you couldn't see anything. You just went to the practice fields and had a camp. I rolled in, Jim, and it was awesome. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I saw those big buildings, like the history, the campus, the whole thing. And I was sucked into the nostalgia, like from the very beginning. Then went to dinner with Coach DeBoer and Courtney Morgan, their GM, who's just been a friend forever when he was at UCLA, and went around Jim Mora, just getting going in his career now. It was kind of the face of what GMs have become in college football. Shout out to Jim Nagy, just hired at Oklahoma as their GM as well. And it was fun just to catch up on life. And then the next morning, had a chance to talk to the team, got to meet a bunch of the guys on the staff, like reunited with Ryan Grubb or Nick Sheridan. There's a bunch of guys that are there that we knew from their time at Washington. And then talk to the team. And talking to the team was really cool. I get to do this a handful of times every offseason. And it's really fun and an honor for me to be entrusted to be in one of the sacred places, which is a team room. And then you think of the Alabama team room. Like I walked in there, and I'm not going to lie, and I'm like, I remember when Kobe was in this team room. I remember when Stephen A. Smith was in this team room. Like think of all the speakers that Nick Saban has brought on in the past, and for Kalen DeBoer and that Alabama staff to bring me in, I was really grateful for it. And then you know me well enough. Like I went for it. Like we went for it hard. Like it was allotted for like 20, 30 minutes. I think we went for like an hour and 20, 30 minutes. It was all on media training, brand building, and then afterwards got to hang out with some of their players that just wanted more work. And Ryan Williams is one of those guys. I know Alabama fans are so impressed with him as a player. I'm even more impressed with him as a young man, how he thinks about his career and his life and his brand and his story and his voice. Spent a bunch of time with players afterwards, and then shot the podcast with Coach DeBoer. So takeaways, it means a lot down there. I can feel that. Takeaway number 2, I miss seeing Kalen DeBoer and company. I kick off the podcast conversation. I think my first question was the last time I saw him was after they lose to Michigan. And I see it like it was yesterday. He comes out of the locker room after talking to the team, like every coach is when the season ends, glassy-eyed, gives his family a big hug, went and did the media, and then was gracious enough to spend time with us. You were there producing it. It was the last thing I ever did. That's not true. It was one of the last things I ever did for the Pac-12 network. And he did a candid, thoughtful interview that was everything that Kalen DeBoer is, which is real, and honest and kind and competitive. And that's the last time I saw him, though. Because then days later, it was to Alabama, and then we've talked about it, it's Brent Brennan and Jed Fish, and all of a sudden, like the dominoes that fall and all the people that he impacted. And then he's into that crazy, celebration of him going there. I mean, remember, 3,000 people showed up at the airport at like 2 a.m. to welcome him and Courtney Morgan and their families. So it was great. I think I walked out of there just feeling like really grateful to cultivate relationships with coaches, and then being invited to talk to a variety of locker rooms. And that's the first time I've been down to do media training in the SEC, and to go to a place like Alabama, which has been the program in that league for so long. It was really cool.
Well, it's funny because, like, to your point, like, not only did he do the interview with them, but then, like, he went back to collect his stuff, and then we were, like, getting all our stuff together. We literally walked out of the stadium. We just kind of ran back into him in the hallway, literally walked out of the stadium with him there. But it's cool, like, after 1 year there now for year 2, reunited with Ryan Grubb. I know you talked to him about that in the interview, but I think, one of the things everybody's going to be intrigued about this Alabama team this year is the quarterback situation. Jalen Milroe has been the guy for the last couple of years. You've got Ty Simpson, who I know you're familiar with from your Elite 11 days. You got Austin Mack, who we are familiar with from his UW days. I remember seeing him in person at the Sugar Bowl and being like, wow, this dude is enormous. And like really just kind of impressed by him. And then Keelan Russell's coming in, and we saw him last year at the Elite 11, and he was the one that kind of, you know, his progression up to that Elite 11 was kind of like an explosion. I'm spacing now where he had been committed to previous, it was SMU, right? Because he is a Dallas guy. And, but you could tell like all of a sudden there was a lot more, even just as that week started, a lot more interest in him. And as that week concluded, you're like, oh yeah, that's a dude.
Yeah, well, I think a couple of thoughts on that. One, I want to finish up one other thing on Kalen DeBoer because I think Alabama fans will really enjoy hearing this. So a couple years ago, I think it was before maybe his final season at Washington, I went up there and did a version of this conversation with the team. And afterwards, we go to lunch, we walk around campus, but really, like, he took me through the facility, took me to his favorite places overlooking the stadium. He just had such a pride in that. I share that story because the same exact thing happened in Tuscaloosa. I've been around a lot of head coaches, and they're busy. They're CEOs of multi-million dollar organizations, especially in this era, and especially a place like Alabama. Kalen DeBoer has not changed one iota in terms of the human and the man that he is. Not only did he pick me up at the hotel to take me out for a bite to eat, but he also guided me around the facility, took me through different rooms. This is what we do here. Hey, check out, this is where we study here. Hey, this is how we try this thing here. Check out our weight room, our training room. You know, just so kind. And then he drove me over to the stadium. It's not like it was attached to the football facility like it is in Washington, where you just kind of take an elevator and you're 100 feet away, and now you're at a lookout at Husky Stadium. I mean, you got to drive over there. Takes me over to this beautiful, I mean, it is just in the South, like it's a Mecca, right? Like, and you go there, and for us to kind of navigate, my first time ever being in that illustrious and historic stadium. And he took me through everything, like where he does his media afterwards, what his process is like. It was really cool. Like, honestly, it's just who he is. And I think whether you go back to his days as a small school coach, or whether him at Washington to a national title, or now at one of the bluest of blue blood programs in the history of college football, Kalen DeBoer hasn't changed in that regard. And that humility and that competitive temperament is what I saw being reflected being around the team. I think in year one, it's so hard. I think it's harder now to take over successful programs than it has ever been before, just because of roster retention, that state that we're in college football. I think that what they did last year, I get it. They didn't meet the expectations that are there. And I don't think he would shy away from that either. He hasn't. And anytime he's been asked for that. But I think he's made that place a really healthy organization. I think I talked to the players. They seem so well-rounded. Guys loving to go compete for him. You look at how they're recruiting, how they're building it. I'll get to the quarterback thing here in a second. But I just want to state that for Bama fans. Like, when you hired Kalen DeBoer, you got at the time, in my eyes, one of the best coaches in America, and voted by everyone else in the world the best coach that season in all of college football. So I just say all that of like, it couldn't have been a better trip, man. It was just amazing on so many fronts. Okay, to the quarterback room. Ty Simpson, to me, leader in the clubhouse. Just been there. He could have ran many times. He could have dipped to somewhere else and go to play many times. He did not. Okay, now how does he navigate this offense with Ryan Grubb now calling plays? Austin Mack. What a phenomenal young man. I mean, he just lit me up when I saw him. He was the first guy I saw in the team room right before me giving the speech. And you're right. He is physically imposing, and he'll have his shot. And then here comes Keelan Russell. I said, hey, man, how's college going? He goes, it's good, man. Like, he's able to adjust pretty naturally. So just so impressive. And he won the MVP at the Elite 11 last year, and he was a pretty slender dude. He rolled in there like every guy who's been on campus for a couple months. Like, he looked a little rocked up, like like his body started to fill out, which always happens senior year and then heading into your first year in college. So I'm looking forward to that. And then I think even like the uniqueness of Nick Sheridan no longer being the play caller, but still being there. It's just to me, one of the most unique circumstances I've seen in coaching in my 25 years in college football. Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer have been connected forever. I mean, literally, when they were both making less than 10 grand coaching together. And then he becomes available because he's no longer in the NFL with the Seahawks. And it was almost like, of course he was going to bring him back. So I look at that and I don't see like a demotion for Nick Sheridan. I mean, I think they were 4th in the SEC in offense. Like it's not like they didn't put up numbers. Not like they didn't move the ball. So I think now they've got, even more firepower because they don't lose Nick. They only add Ryan. These guys have worked together in the past, obviously at Washington being the prime example. So I'm looking forward to Alabama taking another step this season. I'm excited for them and their season. I know their schedule isn't simple. I know they got some tough road games, like they go to Athens, but we prepared for that. We did media training on how to handle going on the road, man. So net, I'm thrilled for them. They start spring ball, I think, a week from when this episode comes out, a little week and some change. So think about that. Ryan Grubb has been there for just a minute, and you got to install, you got to get ready. So they'll be moving fast. And I cannot wait to watch this thing shake out. Always been a fan of Kalen. Now an even bigger fan of Alabama. So Tuscaloosa, you got me. I'm all in.
Yeah.